when we out and we active, living we life. So when we drinking.
Rude boy.
So when we drinking.
Rude boy.
Oh, Miss Lady, anyway you see we are we building up our vibes. So when we drinking.
Rude boy.
So when we drinking.
Rude boy.
Why?
I can't hear him. Gotcha. Good morning, listeners and viewers. You are tuned in to another exciting installment of Creative Voices. I'm your host, Sarah Owen. This program is hosted by myself and my colleague, Lori. Lori and I are going to share the hosting so that you'll get me one episode, then you'll get Lori the next, and we're going to have great fun speaking about all things creative. And a reminder that when we speak about creativity on Creative Voices, we're speaking about those things that immediately come to mind that may be artistic in nature, but we also are talking about any type of problem solving activity that anyone in the federation or the region might be engaged in. So if you have something like that, you have a story like that, you can feel free to reach out to us, reach out to the WIN team, let us know, and we'll get you on our program as well. Today, our theme is all things visual arts, and we have in studio with us Sabrina Warner. Welcome, Sabrina.
Thank you, Sarah.
All right, Sabrina is a good friend, a former classmate of mine. She's a fantastic artist, absolutely talented. So we're going to hear about her journey in visual arts. We also have the phone lines open for anyone who wishes to call in. If you're calling in from St. Kitts Nevis, you can call in at 466-0989 or 662-0989. If you're calling in from the UK, you can call in at 033-344-0065. And if you're calling in from the US, or Canada, you can call in at 305-921-4619 or 718-285-6984. So for those of you who are watching any of our live stream platforms, you should have the numbers placed below you there. We're also expecting another phenomenal artist from the Federation in studio this morning. So hopefully we'll have Vaughn Anslin in here soon, because we also want to hear from him, and more to come, because again, this is such an important and interesting topic. As we unpack it, you'll see how visual arts really touch every aspect of our visible lives, but
Yes.
then connect to other components of our being as well. Of course, this program would not be possible without our wonderful sponsors. So in our first hour, we have TDC, Together We Achieve, and together for the shareholders, we know what that means, but also remember that there are so many branches, so many opportunities to shop with TDC. We want to highlight a few great things that are happening with TDC in February. So the vehicle of the month is the Toyota Agya. So you can feel the love this month and test drive the Agya and the Rays. They have a nice red one here in the image. So if you're really feeling lovey, you can go and test drive a red car. And then you also have specials on at the Home and Building Depot. So you can enjoy 20% off furniture, electronics, appliances, and outdoor recreation and exercise equipment. So head down to Home and Building Depot. All kinds of things are happening at TDC this month. The product of the month, you can save up to $3,600 on a Whirlpool fridge, or up to $326 on a mega tank Canon printer. We also have special promos that you'll hear in our ad segments from Rams, the Good Food people, who are our second sponsors for this first hour of Creative Voices. So we're just going to cut to a break, hear from our sponsors, give so much gratitude to them, and we'll be back and we'll hear from Sabrina all about her life as an artist.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
What are you doing?
She said, drink a rude boy, I will do the work. You don't have to wind up So when we out and we active, living we life. So when we drinking. Rude boy. So when we drinking. Rude boy. Oh, Miss Lady, anyway you see we building up our vibes. So when we drinking. Rude boy. So when we drinking. Rude boy. Why?
Shopping with TDC just got much easier. Here's how. Log on to shoptdcgroup.com. Shop at your convenience at any time, from anywhere with your smartphone, tablet, or computer. With our safe and secure payment checkout, you choose the option to pick up in-store or have your goods delivered right to your door. It's that easy. Shop tdcgroup.com, your one-stop online store.
Shop anywhere, shop anytime, same quality you love. Now online. Shop www.shoptdcgroup.com.
Found the sound. 98.9. Win FM.
Good morning and welcome back to Creative Voices. So we have in studio with us this morning Sabrina Warner. We are talking about all things visual arts, and we are going to get a remote link to Vaughn Anslin, who is our second guest or other guest for this morning. So we have two guests. Saying second sort of places it in order where there is none. So I will just work with Flames on getting that information over to Vaughn so that he can join us remotely, as we had a little time mix up there. So Sabrina, welcome to Creative Voices. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation.
You're welcome. I mean, it has been a long time coming. You
Yes.
know, we were trying to organize this before. I think it worked out perfectly, though.
Awesome. Everything in the time that it's
Divine
supposed to be
time,
in, a
exactly.
divine time. Awesome. So we're speaking visual arts here, and I know that you have had a journey. I remember you always being very creative when you were young. And so one of the things that we like to explore in Creative Voices or on Creative Voices is that story of what led you to choose this path. So, you know, thinking about what first drew you to visual art and how you knew this was a path you wanted to take. Was it something that perhaps was inherent within you from a very young age? Is it something that happened because there was a moment in life, you know, later on? Was it all of the above? And it's important, I think, to tell these stories too, because sometimes we think that our journeys are unique, but to know how someone else's story may align with our own story can also empower and encourage other artists who may be listening to the program. So please let us know the story of Sabrina the artist. When did it start? How did it continue? Where are we now?
It started when I was a child. I remember, the first thing I remember about visual arts, and it actually affecting me in a certain way that was different from just enjoying myself or doodling somewhere.
Right.
It was a competition that they had at convent school. We had to draw something, and I remember thinking, I'll just draw this. And it was a girl. She was hiding behind a hibiscus flower.
Okay.
And I had the most fun drawing it and coloring it. And I actually won a trophy for it. I brought it home, and I remember there was not much of a big deal made of this trophy.
It didn't matter. winning it, clearly.
But I was shocked to win anything, first of all. And then when I went home, I was like, because back then, you know, art, I don't know if you remember when we were growing up. It was not something that was looked at in any big way as something that you can use to earn a living.
Right.
And certainly that was the attitude that I had all the way through life until more recently. I went to university and I started out in psychology. And very shortly after doing a few courses in psychology, I thought, well, this doesn't really align for me. You know, there's so many facets and aspects to the human mind. And here I am with this diagnostic book, and I'm supposed to try and fit all of these things into these categories. And I thought, this is really not aligned. And so I switched to visual arts. And that was certainly a lot more fun.
At the same university?
At the same university.
So what was that process like? I mean, because the way you said it just now, it seems like you went to some psychology classes and you're like, I don't like this. And then you just went to an office and said, let me do visual arts
Change my
instead.
major, yeah.
But I imagine that there was some reflection. You had to maybe talk to your parents, speak to, what was that journey like?
You know, actually, when you sent the list of questions, I thought back then, I didn't really get a fight about the change in major. Because I think all along there was the idea that this would just be the first degree and then I would go on to specialize in something else. So, but that never happened. So I did visual arts, and then I came out of school and thought, well, I'm not going to make any money doing this, so let me get a real job.
So you still had that belief system that you had from the little girl that won the trophy.
Yes.
Real, this is not real, so
Yes.
let me do something that is real.
Exactly. And so I did that. And but every time something important would happen in life, every time usually life circumstance, some important life event happened, I went back to art. And it wasn't about producing art as much as it was about processing something big that was happening. So for example, I moved to Japan and art became a part of my life. When I was
we're hopping here. So all of a sudden you moved to Japan. So you left university as a qualified artist. And I think that I've seen some others from St. Kitts and Nevis post about similar journeys. So they leave university as artists, but then after that, you know, they're not quite sure what next because of this perception of what's real and what's not real. So when we get Vaughn on, it will be interesting to hear his journey as well in terms of any feelings of that he may have had. In my own journey, I remember I went to England for A-levels, and I always wanted to do art. But as you said, it was something when we were in high school, I remember you had a choice because we had a Peace Corps teacher, I think, who was teaching art. You could do art or PE. And if anybody's listening remembers me well from the PE perspective, you will understand that I did not choose PE. I happily chose art, but I also wanted to do art. So I enjoyed that. And so I thought I want to do this as an A-level. And when I went to England, I was really blessed, and shout out to my parents who may be listening, I hope are listening, for the awesome opportunity to go to a school that was so creative, that had such fantastic resources. And art was one of the A-levels I'd chosen, art, theater, and literature. So, of course, having never done theater or art before, but I didn't think about that. I didn't think like, oh, I need to know how to do this thing before I go. I was just young and, I didn't think about it. So when I went, just to kind of paint a picture from the novice end. So for you, you're saying you wanted to do art, so you transitioned into art. And I've heard other artists talk about their art degrees. And I see that we have Vaughn joining us on, so this is wonderful. And Flames will let me know when he can hear us and all the audio is connected and so on. However, going back to that, though I still feel there's an artist deep down in me somewhere. I went to this class, and it was a beautiful art room. Well, before the class, we went to a meeting with the sixth form students, and they all had portfolios. Well, I had no portfolio because I'd never created an actual piece of art before. So I already felt like an odd duck in this room. Also, I was the only West Indian in the room, so many things happening. And then the first class, we had to draw a still life. Everybody had the easel set up, wonderful supplies. We had a still life of an old velvet red curtain, deep red, and an old printing press or something like that, and everybody sits down. They know how to draw this thing. I have no idea where to begin, what to do, so I just went to the teacher immediately and said, I need to drop this course. And no, stay with it. I think they said they'd never had anybody drop a course quite so fast. Mm-hmm. But I was saying, no, this cannot work for me. So I have to do something else. And I did classical civilization instead. Mm-hmm. But so if you could just kind of talk, just before we get to Japan, if you could tell our listeners then, if you're going to study art, so there might be people like me who think we like art, but we're jumping in at a level a little above where we really are. And that can be a bit intimidating. But for you, when you went, I'm imagining coming from St. Kitts, you didn't have a prior education in art.
No.
So you just went in at the university level now. So what was that like in the classroom for you? Because for me, it was a pull the plug moment. But for you, it was a lean in moment, it seems.
Yes, it was a lean in moment because there were people at so many different levels in that class. And of course, different classes. And it was just about walking around the room, because we did the still life classes, and we did also the nudes, which was a whole other. And of course, I don't know if it was, to me, I was the only one. Me and another guy who was from Jamaica, we thought it was the most funny thing. And we were the only ones laughing because we were only West Indians in the class.
Can you imagine a naked person in a classroom and saying it's for art?
Hanging everywhere, yeah.
That's not happening.
So it was when I realized that nothing was a problem, was when you walked around, because you did have a chance to walk around mid-class and see what other people were doing, and realize that it's not necessarily about what ends up on the paper. It's about the process, and the end result was always something beautiful to look at, whether or not it was realistic.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But let me check in with Flames. Do we have Vaughn? I'm seeing him, so I'm just checking to see if we'd be able to hear him. All right, because I just want to make sure that we don't keep Vaughn waiting. All right, Vaughn, are you hearing us?
Yes, I am.
Oh, wonderful. Welcome. So great to have you. Thank you. Despite, you see how artists are quick and agile and able, we have a little mix up and everybody's here smiling. The show is still going on. So that is wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
All right. So you're at that tell your story moment with Sabrina. So we got from her like early first inclinations in terms of art being in a competition at convent school, which she won, of course. And then it's like jumping from that to a degree in psychology that was an ill fit and a transition to art. My own journey, which I always thought that I was going to be, fabulous dancer, artist, something. But then I realized that you need, quite a bit of talent and gumption and gusto to do all of these things, which at that phase in my life, for those fields, I stuck with my literature, and that worked out well for me. But we're going to cut to break in a minute to hear from our wonderful sponsors. And when we come back, Vaughn, we are keen to hear from you in terms of what was that journey like for you? Was it like little boy Vaughn in Nevis who was from very early on doing creative things? Was it something that happened as you, as you grew into an adult? What is your story? And I also want to give thanks to one of our listeners who reminded me that today is the would have been the 81st birthday of the late, great Bob Marley. So we want to make sure that we keep the positive vibes going in his honor, and I think we have the right guests in the studio for that. So we'll take a break, we'll hear from our wonderful sponsors, and we'll be back to hear from you, Vaughn, all about this wonderful journey in a few. Stay close.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is Win FM.
Shopping with TDC just got much easier. Here's how. Log on to shoptdcgroup.com. Shop at your convenience at any time, from anywhere, with your smartphone, tablet, or computer. With our safe and secure payment checkout, you choose the option to pick up in-store or have your goods delivered right to your door. It's that easy. Shop tdcgroup.com, your one-stop online store.
Shop anywhere, shop anytime, same quality you love. www.shoptdcgroup.com. What are you doing?
She said, drink a rude boy, I will do the work. You don't have to wind up yourself. You don't have to wind up yourself. Oh, she said, drink a rude boy, I will do the work. You don't have to wind up yourself. You don't have to wind up yourself. Oh, cause when we out and we active, living we life. So when we drinking. Rude boy. So when we drinking. Rude boy. Oh, Miss Lady, anyway you see we are we building up our vibes. So when we drinking. Rude boy. So when we drinking. Rude boy. Why?
All right, welcome back. You are tuned in to Creative Voices. I'm your host, Sarah Owen. We have in studio with us today Sabrina Warner and Vaughn Ansmith. So you know what we're talking about. We are talking about, I'm going to say visual arts, but we're really talking about art. And Vaughn, we are eager to hear from you in terms of what your story is, what your journey is. I'm a great admirer of your work, so I'm really very intrigued to learn more about what this journey has been for you. So tell us your story, please.
My story is very interesting. Is that I never really been to an art school.
Okay.
I've never been taught art. Everything, unlike the young lady before me, she was talking about art school and doing stuff and all that stuff. I was born an artist. I don't know how to describe it. From a very young age in school, while everybody was writing, I was drawing.
Right.
And I would take on the task of doing people's homework, or the drawing for the biology, the geography, the sketch they needed to do. I would do them all for them. So it was always in me from an early age. And rather than let it fade, I just developed it. I constantly developed myself, developed my skill. I try to be better than myself in everything. So I will start on one thing and I will learn how to do that, and then I will okay, I could do better than that, and I could do better than that, and I could do better than that. And I just keep going, and then before you know it, I'm producing these pieces of work that I myself can't even believe that I did. It's very interesting.
Wow. So then in terms of, and it's interesting that you say biology and geography and so on. Somebody was, I have children of the age now, doing they finished, some of them, their C-Sec and CAPE, and one is still doing that subject. And it makes you reflect on your own subject choices. And I really liked geography and technical drawing because they were the only two subjects in which I got to draw. So I loved that we got to draw rivers, and then you had to draw, these cross sections of the earth and all that kind of thing. I absolutely loved the maps and, and so that was what pulled me into those subjects. So you sharing that you actually used to do that homework for other people has now made me think, which I never thought of before, what about the people who didn't like the drawing and did the geography and the, those kinds of subjects as well. So as you're going along and you're having it, the way that I'm interpreting what you're sharing, Vaughn, is that it's like air itself. So it's this thing that is within you that just as you have to breathe, you're going to be doing some form of art. So you're going to be drawing, you're going to be, painting, whatever it may be. So how did that transition into a career for you? So, because you're drawing, you're painting, you're good at it, and then opportunities present themselves, you find opportunities. How did that evolution work for you?
Well, to be fair, it wasn't easy because I think as a culture, we don't recognize art as the value of art. We like to see drawings and we like to see paintings, but to say we're going to purchase something for $5,000 is absurd in the eyes of Caribbean people, because they don't see value, and I think they only see paint on a canvas. They don't see the feeling and the production that it comes from it. And even if they do, a lot of times it's very hard for them to connect to that. And it took me a while to find a niche where how can I best get people more involved in art? And my answer to that was portraits.
Okay.
And now portraits are like the epitome of art because you have to get it right. You can't just kind of look like them or it won't be them. One little thing that's off or one little mistake and the face looks like somebody else. And it took me about 5 years, I'm not kidding you, 5 years of constant trial and failure and trying new techniques and reading up and looking at things and how people draw the face, the geometry behind the face, where placement is central. There are very specific guidelines that you have to follow when it comes to drawing the face. And then you kind of fill in the rest. But if one of those things are off, everything becomes off. The ear looks lopsided, the eyes look higher than lower. There's just a lot of things that go into place. And it took me a good 5 years before I even showed anybody, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. And it was something. But then from that, just getting the face right, then I started to experiment more with expression, trying to capture a feeling behind the picture. And I started to evolve into not just drawing and painting a smiley face or a happy face, but one with depth, one with emotion, one with feeling, that you can actually touch the person and feel what you're looking at. And that is where I think my art journey really began, because then it started to resonate to people, like they can feel what the person was feeling. And I would go out to like, I would take pictures of like older people, like in the old folks homes and stuff. And I would have a conversation with them and speak to them about their life journey. But in that moment, take a picture of what they were doing at that time and capture that raw emotion that was being felt just when they were explaining their whole life journey. And then I would go home and I would draw that image right then and there. And that is when I realized I could capture the essence of that person in that moment. So a lot of times when I do portraits for people and they want to send me a picture of like their face in a filter or edited, that's not real. That is not who they are. That is some convoluted image that was contrived. I would prefer to take the picture myself, and I said, I don't need a makeup. I just need to see the real you. And when I take that picture and I do that portrait, then they were like, wow, they connect with that. And I think that's the biggest selling point of my artistic journey, was to capture feelings and emotions. And once I started doing portraits like that, I then went from charcoal drawings to pencils to painting. And then I started to dabble in abstract and more different genres, but all the while sticking to the actual face, the human face itself. And I've done a lot more without even realizing it. I'm doing more faces now than sceneries or animals or butterflies or birds. I'm just focused on the face because I think that is the source of human emotion, what you can see on your face.
Yeah, I am a fan of your portraits. Also your koi, your fisher, so as you say, butterflies and so on, the koi came to mind. But you mentioned something just now, Vaughn, that I want to kind of tap into both you and Sabrina's perspectives on this, in that you use the word depth, and also you spoke about where we are culturally in terms of appreciating the value of the art and how that connects with the cost of a piece of art. So, Vaughn, in your storytelling just now, in terms of how long it took you, for example, to master that art of creating portraits and to connect not just with an image or even the sort of filtered, manipulated image that we get now using technology, but to connect with the humanness of the individual whose portrait you are painting, all of that is part of the value of the work. And then what you get now as the viewer when you look at that. So on my end, when I'm viewing art that has this depth to it, it's going to resonate with me, it's going to connect with me. And, you know, I have pieces at home that when I hear the story behind, the artist shares the story behind the piece, it connects me even more with the piece. I buy the piece, and when I sit down and I look at the piece at home, I'm remembering that I'm having that emotion over and over and over again, which I'm very grateful for. And Sabrina, you have started to share time-lapse videos, and I'm always really impressed by when you start, for example, you'll have what would appear very flat, you know, in terms of just putting your color palette perhaps for a seascape or something. And then I just watch that the layers come to build the little specks of sand, and then to build the dimension in the wash, in the surf, you know, and those things that I think maybe we don't quite understand in terms of how long that takes, how important that is. Whether you learned it in school or you're self-taught, you still have to learn it. You know what I mean? You still have to be able to visualize it, but be able to bring it forth. And that, as a retailer of art, since we sell art at Bougainvillea Books and Gifts, I've seen where there is some art or some perhaps, I don't want to say underappreciation or perhaps lack of understanding in terms of what it takes to create that type of depth. So sometimes people say, I can draw, but they will do something very two-dimensional or very flat because they don't have that understanding necessarily of how to bring the depth into the painting. So if you could talk us through, Sabrina, now a little bit about that process for you, because I noticed that you've been doing a lot of shoreline, seascapes, that type of thing, if that's the right terminology to use, but also that layering work, what materials you use, how long did it take you to master that art, and how much time does it take you to prepare a painting like that?
That's a very interesting question. And I will tell you, it took me as long as, let's say, the pandemic, 2020. Mm-hmm. So I went to art school. I wouldn't say art school. I went to university, was 1996. And I had dropped it and picked it up, dropped it and picked it up, used it as a hobby. And during the pandemic, I started painting again after trying to avoid it.
Okay.
After actively trying to avoid it, passing the paints, making jewelry instead.
So it was calling out to you in the same way that Vaughn says it was calling to him from a very young age.
It was calling again.
But you were resisting the call.
I was resisting the call because for me, the art is not necessarily about the painting itself. Mm-hmm. It is about the processing of things. And
so it's like a therapy.
It's a therapy. Mm-hmm. It's what I realized at that time is it's actually a channeling, because I started painting, started out doing different studies, and then I got contacted by somebody via my Instagram if I could do this painting for them. And I thought that's very interesting that you've seen my videos and think that you want my art that much, and you're gonna reach out and ask.
Right.
And I'm doing this, and I'm painting, and I'm enjoying it. For me, it starts out with layers, just with layers. I have about 40 or 50 reference pictures that I am using.
Okay.
For any different piece, usually.
Okay, so the piece you're creating is a piece of your imagination built on multiple pieces that you've collected.
Yes. So I have a concept, I have an idea based on what they tell me, and I have a certain color palette, so I'm looking for similar images of similar things with similar color palettes, and I'm studying them to see how the light hits and how I can create this particular effect. And then I start out with a sketch, and then I start with washes and an outline, and usually it ends up being very different from what I started with. It just morphs into something else, which is usually something that I get up from the space, walk away, go have lunch or something, or go watch TV and come back, and I look at it and I say, I have a thought. Who did that? Did I do that? So it's not coming from
I see.
me. I don't actually.
You're channeling an energy onto the canvas.
Yes, and I'm getting goosebumps. But when I hit the sweet spot, it is not a case where I'm in the space thinking about what's happening and what I'm going to do next. I am in the space. Yeah. I'm in a different place altogether. And and it's a very magical place to be. It doesn't happen all the time. It starts out very concentrated, very methodical. Okay, this is what I have to do, and then at some point it moves into something else. And so it is far more than just a piece of art. I had somebody tell me, you do landscapes and seascapes. It's a little bit cliche, and I thought that's so interesting.
Really?
Yes, because yes, it's a piece of art that depicts a seascape, but there's so much that went into that particular piece. And hopefully at the end of the day, the emotion that went into it and the things that were resolved kind of reflect when you look at it. It gives you a certain feeling, a certain emotion that gets invoked when you look at that piece.
I think, like, for me, when I look at your work, it's a similar feeling to if I go in nature and I look at, God's own creation with the sea and so on. I would never find that to be a cliche. So I'm surprised that was feedback. But feedback is, that's it's good to get an idea of what people are.
It was actually very important for me because this last painting that I'm doing, that I'm still working through, it was very. I used that feedback, and I thought. There's so much that's happening right now. There's so many things that have led to this particular piece. How do I convey that? And there's an artist, a makeup artist that I follow on Instagram. Her name is Bailey Sarayan, and she couples voiceovers of murder mystery onto her videos of makeup being done. And I always loved it. I thought, what a great idea. I would never know about that particular murder mystery story that's actually a real story if I wasn't watching this makeup video.
Right.
And so I thought, what a great way to put the two things together so that when somebody looks at this piece of art, they understand exactly what was happening.
Vaughn, when you're painting, do you have a similar experience of sort of, in the way that they would say in literature, getting lost in a book? Do you get lost in the art sometimes, and when you step back from it, look at it, and you're just amazed by what you've created?
Let me tell you, hearing her describe what she said, right? I've said the exact same thing before. The multiple images that she has, I have files on my computer, photos of clouds, of trees, of land, of rocks, of stones, countless images that I use as cross-referencing for my drawings. But like she said, when I know that I start a painting, in there, I am taken over by something else. It is a feeling filled with my subject, what I'm doing. And hours later, when I step back and I go do something or pick up something to eat, and I look back at it, I'm like, how the hell did I do? And puts it into myself what I'm doing. And like she said, it is a sweet spot that you could never describe. But every artist have their own different feeling. But this, when that happens to me, it's peace. It is total bliss. And it's a feeling that I can never describe. And when people, as she said, people critique your work, they have no idea the feeling, the piece of you that you have put onto that canvas.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't sure if you were going to respond to say that it was a similar experience or if it would be completely different. So it is really, quite profound that both of you, and I'm sure, I like to watch a lot of documentaries and so on, and you hear musicians speaking about something similar, even writers kind of looking back at what they've written, and, they're just in that sweet spot where they're taken over by this creative energy that allows them to, and it is so very easy for people who don't have that experience or don't have that ability to kind of sit back and look at critique, just like we do with sports. So, I can't play any sports, but I could say a lot of things about how people could have done their sports a little bit better. But then on the flip side, there are so many people that will have a sense of awe. And so very many I know have that feeling as it relates to your both of your works. So when you have people who look at it and just are inspired by what you have created, that you can, on our program, the last episode, we had DJ Flames talking about, the mood that can be created with music and how the selection of songs can really influence someone's mood. And I think art can do the same thing. You step into certain spaces and you can tell when an artist has been included in the process of creating this space, because the energy that you feel is just completely different because there's a completely different understanding of how color works, but then also now listening to both of you, maybe there's something else that is even more difficult to put your finger on because there's just this energy that aligns with your energy and creates this space if you're looking at it in that regard. So we're going to take a little break here from very, very interesting dialogue. Very, very interesting dialogue. Stay tuned.
Found the sound 98.9 FM.
Shopping with TDC just got much easier. Here's how. Log on to shoptdcgroup.com. Shop at your convenience at any time, from anywhere, with your smartphone, tablet, or computer. With our safe and secure payment checkout, you choose the option to pick up in-store or have your goods delivered right to your door. It's that easy. Shop tdcgroup.com, your one-stop online store.
Shop anywhere, shop anytime, same quality you love. Now online. Shop
www.shoptdcgroup.com.
What are you doing?
She said, drink a rude boy, I will do the work. You don't have to wind up yourself. You don't have to wind up yourself. Oh, she said, drink a rude boy, I will do the work. You don't have to wind up yourself. You don't have to wind up yourself. Oh, cause when we out and we active, living we life. So when we drink, we drinking. Rude boy. So when we drink, we drinking. Rude boy. Oh, Miss Lady, anyway you see we are we building up our vibes. So when we drink, we drinking. Rude boy. So when we drink, we drinking. Rude boy. Why?
We are back live on air. You are tuned into Creative Voices. If you are joining us now, welcome. We are in studio. We have Sabrina Warner and Vaughn Anslin with us, and we're speaking about all things creative arts. And I realized in the break, Vaughn, that you and Sabrina have, well, I was going to cut to the traveling aspect because Sabrina had mentioned something about Japan. I know, Vaughn, that you have been, from my understanding, I'm saying I know, but it really makes me sound like a Mako because, I follow your journey because I'm intrigued by your art, but I've seen that you've traveled quite a bit through your art as well. But then also you have an overlap in terms of the hospitality industry. And I was just speaking before we went to break about creating space, the ability the artist has to create space that evokes a particular type of feeling. And I remember having a discussion with a local artist years ago, and she was telling me that she thought it was an opportunity missed when we diversified our economy when the sugar industry ended, because one of the things that was so beautiful in our landscape was the cane fields, So from a visual perspective, it created a really beautiful landscape, which we lost with. So when you're looking at what comes next, the eye that the artist has is very different in terms of how you can create these landscapes now, whatever we go into next, that will continue to be beautiful for us, beautiful for, generations to come, but also to, promote certain sectors and so on. So also when you're looking at planning, when you're looking at beautifying Bastia, all of these things, the artist's eye and the critical thinking that comes with creative mindsets, because that generally is aligned with problem-solving thinking. So both of you worked in the hospitality industry. So if you could share a little bit about how, your artistic lens and your creative mindset helped in that way, in those fields. But then also, they seem a little disconnected, but we also want to learn more about how you traveled. They may not have been connected, they may have been connected, but you traveled quite a bit with your art. So what doors did your art open for you in that regard? So 2 questions at one time for 2 people. So throwing it out there, Vaughn and Sabrina, for either of you to jump in first.
Well, with art, it has taken me many places. I've done murals in Anguilla when they had a hurricane. It was there to beautify the place and to add a little light to the place. The hashtag Think It's sign, the hashtag Need Is Nice sign.
Okay.
I made those. I'm currently working on a project. I might be doing something like that in Montserrat as well. I've done work in Statia, where I've done Welcome to Statia, I love Statia, signs like that. I've been as far as Dubai to do murals. I've done murals all over the Caribbean. But then I also do a lot of decor, and I think that matches in with the tourism project, where for events, music festival, express events, VIP, DJ Terror and his functions. I do the entrance facades and the stage decor. And I always say I'm not a decorator. I'm an artist that decorates.
Okay.
It's a big difference. So I don't just place things, but I create a theme around it. And I think that plays hand in hand with me as an artist, is that you see things through different lenses. You see color and the way things go together seamlessly. So you kind of create that landscape based on what the theme or the event implies. In terms of the tourism project, the murals that I do around Nevis ties into that, because each one of them had their own little meaning and their own little idea. And I think a lot of people, they gravitate towards murals in a way that it touches them personally, especially the abstract murals and murals that have things to do with the island itself. You travel all over the world, but you're always drawn to the wall that has all the artists' paintings on it. And I think that's one of the things I try to create here as well, that sense of wonder where art touches people in many different ways.
Yeah, so you see, so I was going to ask a question about murals as well. So I'll cut to Sabrina in terms of her travel, her kind of blending her artistic journey into a hospitality career and how that has worked out. And then we can hop back also to the murals, the sense of identity, the cultural components of the artwork that you do. So Sabrina, tell us a little bit about your travels and your work in the hospitality industry.
Well, for me, the art, I traveled to different places just because, it felt right at the time, and not necessarily to do art. Unlike Vaughn, where he would go to different places to do different things, I move around the world to different places just because it feels like that's what I should be doing. And then when I go there, I end up inevitably painting. And it was interesting. The skill, the not necessarily painting anymore what I think people want to see, but painting what I want to paint.
Okay.
What feels right for me in the moment. And as time has passed, I have gone away from fitting the art in to regular life and the real job, to carving out a space for the art more recently. I mean, that I recently left my job, corporate job at one of the top luxury hotel brands. And I did that because I realized that I needed to carve out some space to do this, because it was important for me to do that for my own, to self-actualize. And the real job now became more of a hindrance than a help.
And when we say real job, for those who are tuning in now, early on, Sabrina was talking about her own childhood experience of being interested in art, but never getting the vibe or the sense that was really real work, and pursuing other options, and then sort of coming back to the art always. Whereas Vaughn shared in his story that, it was always a passion and a drive for him. So the art was always there and he leaned into it from very early on. And in terms of your identity as artists then, how Vaughn, how does being from the Caribbean shape your artistic vision and the stories you tell through your work. Is Vaughn still with us? All right, well,
I'm here.
yes, okay, all right, yes. So how does being from the Caribbean shape your artistic vision and the stories that you tell through the art? To what extent is your signature as an artist influenced by your identity as a Nivision, as a West Indian, as someone from the Caribbean?
Well, step back a bit to where Sabrina was talking about. The identity part of it. I worked for a large hotel brand as well for 17 years. And one day I just got up and left because I felt there was something missing inside me. I just left. But to be fair, it was, even though it was a difficult choice, it felt like the right choice at the time.
Right.
And so with that as my foundation, I then started to build myself. And believe me when I tell you, no part of this industry is easy because it's based around feelings and emotions. And I had to find a way to have people connect with that. Now, being from the Caribbean, that makes it 10 times harder because I think they accept a certain kind of art from Caribbean people because they see it sold on the side of the road, like the Haitian art and the Puerto Rican art, where guys just knock something together and they sell it very cheaply. And then here you are coming up with this different approach to it where it's more in the fine art category, and then people still can't understand, well, why am I paying this much for somebody who is not known? The thing is, that's the whole point, is to get that person out there into the field. And in my experience and in my journey, I've made contacts with so many people over the years, and it has developed to the point where now, and funny you should ask this question because I'm heading to Miami on the 25th of this month for an exhibition in a museum there to feature my work because someone saw my work online and contacted me and said, you really need to be showcased for Black History Month at this museum. And so I'm heading to, I already sent my artwork, I had shipped it out, and I'll be heading there later on this month to showcase my work in Miami. And to me, that's a huge achievement.
It is, yeah.
It's something that I've never expected, and this journey of mine has taken so many turns and twists. It's fascinating, and even last year there was an exhibition, competition, art exhibition, and I entered it, and I won. But it's not the fact that I won the competition; it's the fact that the people that put it on liked the piece so much. There was this was the art museum in Washington D.C. They liked the piece so much that they flew me up to Washington to have me sign over the rights of the painting to the museum, and now it's on permanent display in that museum, the only piece from the region.
Well, that's fantastic.
That is a massive accomplishment on my part because, number one, here is my work being featured in a place in Washington, D.C. for the world to see. And I'm from little old Nevis. So you talk about it when you put it into perspective that we may be from the Caribbean. And, the Jamaicans have a saying that we small, but we talawa. Well, that is so true because here I am from an island that barely has 13,000 people, but I have a piece of art on a wall in a museum in Washington, D.C., alongside countless of other greats. That is, to me, a lifetime achievement.
Oh, yeah, that is a phenomenal accomplishment. Congratulations.
Yeah.
That is really,
Thank you.
really awesome and extremely newsworthy. So I can't remember hearing about this on the news, but we certainly should be hearing about this type of achievement on the news. It's possible that I missed it, but that is really, as you say, it's a tremendous achievement. And I also really appreciate that you say that with such humility after achieving so much success in your career counting each of these moments and valuing them in the way that you've just expressed to us is really quite magical. So, congratulations to you on that. I'm interested, though, you mentioned that you had to sign over the rights to the museum in DC so that it could be displayed there permanently or something to that effect, right?
Right.
So in terms of the intellectual property for each of you, but I'll allow Sabrina first to answer the question about identity and how being from the Caribbean influences her artistic style, her creative style, anything that has to do with how being from St. Kitts and your mother is from St. Lucia, so you've lived in Jamaica, so you have maybe you have a Caribbean aesthetic. Can you share a bit with us about that, and then we can get into the IP components of your artwork as well.
For sure, I think the subject matter that I tend to gravitate towards is always something to do with the ocean.
Okay.
And for sure, that has had something to do with where I have been raised. But when as I explore a little bit more of the spiritual side of things, because I do wonder why are you always so intrigued by the ocean and the water? If you look into it, there is a spiritual component where water is a symbol for emotion. And I think it is so interesting that I feel like we are only recently, as a Caribbean people, as a Caribbean collective, becoming more okay with processing emotion. I think we are fairly young in terms of how we do that. I mean, if you think of, especially our men, if you think of the way that we kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? We don't encourage our men then
to be expressive
their emotion and process it. But it's so important to do that.
Right.
And so I find it very interesting that I tend to gravitate towards painting water, and my paintings are about processing emotion. I just find that there is some link that still needs to be explored in terms of that, and I'll continue to paint
sizes and those types of things to work through certain emotions, to channel certain energies, and to map out certain things that you'd want to achieve. And many of our listeners know, because I was on air speaking about this in October, but I had a breast cancer diagnosis last year. I had a cancer journey. So I was at home a lot, and I thought I was going to be able to do all these things while I was at home, not realizing that that's not exactly how it works. Like, I'm going to read, I'm going to tidy my house, I'm going to, I can't go out, so that's great, I'll do all these things. But then it, hit me for 6, and that's apparently not what you do when you're home going through that kind of treatment. However, I was able to put into practice some of what I had learned while doing that course. And one of the things that they instructed in the course was a little activity called Color Your Day or something along those lines. And I had an mandala coloring book for adults that I took, and I'd color. And I thought, because I was feeling so wretched, that you'd kind of the coloring that I do during that period would probably be very somber, or with colors that I thought would be reflective of how I felt and so on. But when I looked at what I'd colored at the end of each session, they were bright, still vivid colors, the colors that I love, the pastels, and so it made me feel better, because I felt like I'm still there. I'm still in there. I'm going through a little bit of a rough patch, but here's the color. Look at what I've colored, and look at how I put these colors together. And I actually sent 2 of the colorings that I did for 2 of my children who study overseas. So instead of writing in a card or a letter, I wrote on the coloring that I'd done. And there's great power in that. So to your point about that gravitating towards drawing water, and that even if you're not gifted enough to be able to put on canvas what you're able to put on canvas, but you can draw for simple tools, and you can still use those tools to help you to move through certain emotions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So Vaughn, I don't know if the painting experience is like cathartic for you in that way as well. I mean, who was guiding me suggested to me that, you know, there are two different sides to who I am, and one of them is very corporate, and I was leaning all into that. But there's another side that is equally potent, perhaps, that is very creative and artistic, and I was totally ignoring that. And it was reflecting it was holding like pain in my body for not expressing that. So, you know, it gave me something different to reflect on. And at first I had some resistance to that thinking, because I was like, nah, I could, you know. But then I just wasn't getting the ease from the pain that I thought I should be getting. And, you know, I've changed my life, and the rest, as they say, is history. But Vaughn, I don't know if when you're painting, for example, or you're doing a particular work of art, if there's anything, Sabrina has spoken about the water, you have spoken to us about beginning your journey with the portraits and so on. Is there anything in particular that you paint, you draw, you create, and or even for events, at the end of it, you have this sort of release where you feel that sort of emotional catharsis having done it?
Yes, yes, I do. There are many people think that painting and drawing comes from a place of brightness and color and sunshine, but it very much comes from a dark place.
Yeah.
It comes from a place of hurt, anger, frustration, sadness, and I think that's what truly brings out the passion in any artist. It's not the warm and fuzzy feeling, but rather the dark feeling that drives you with that raw emotion that comes out. I paint a lot of images that I keep at my house. And these are the images that are speaking to me directly as a person and as an artist. And they're the ones that I think I paint from the heart. I recently showcased them and they're actually on display right now at the Charlestown Gallery in town, where it's all about, I think the caption of the event was Portraits of Life, because it showcases people in their raw form, people where you see one head literally splitting from the other, where one is red and one is blue, and it shows the dichotomy of life that we face every day with our choices, good or evil, right and wrong, bad or good, stuff like that. You know, people. There's a guy that his head is on fire and he's melting away, and that showcases how the things that we have in our head can lead to our own destruction. So things like that, they're showcasing emotion behind that. I think we all, as artists, we all have that space where we go to. But art is such a personal thing that a lot of times you will find artists who will never showcase their work because they don't want to hear that, like Sabrina said, that negativity, that critic, because how dare you criticize me as an artist for doing what I do, what I feel. Because art to me is not something that I do. It's something that I feel.
Yeah.
It's a feeling based on that moment, that time, that space. And that's why I, for one, never really enter art competitions. It's not that I don't win, but winning is not the point. Showcasing the work is the point. And you realize that how can you tell me, an artist, I'm 40 years experience, but I'm going up against a guy who's 5-year experience or 2 years experience, but yet you are being judged on the same merit. That is unfair, because here I am way ahead in my journey. It's like running a race with Usain Bolt and you're just in college. There's no comparison. So then you try to create this narrative around artists that, oh, I can criticize what you do. No, you can't. You don't have the authority to do that. Artists are personal people, very open to emotion, open to feeling, open to suggestion, open to the entire world around us. The vision that we see as artists is not the same as normal people. I always say the world is crazy. Artists are the only people that are normal because we see the world through a different type of lens. What color is that leaf? Oh, it's green. No, it's not. It's green, it's yellow, it's red, it's blue, it's black, it's white. And that's what we see. The world in contrast and color. But to some people, they're so narrowly focused that they think they deserve the right to be your art critic. That wouldn't fly with me at all. So yes, we do paint our feelings on canvas, and we do put our own raw emotions on paper. But at the end of the day, it's one of those things that people tend not to discuss because they don't want anyone to tell them that's wrong or right, or it doesn't look good or it looks good. Everybody's an artist in their own right. You just have to figure out which direction you want to go in life and how well you want to progress it. But I will encourage anybody to pick up a pencil, pick up a paintbrush, and just put down something on paper, because it is such a opening and a listening feeling. You have no idea. As a matter of fact, I have a paint and sip party coming up, and it's with a psychologist, and
Awesome.
it's for Valentine. It's not really for Valentine's Day, but it's tailored around couples. And in this moment, she was trying to get a way of presenting it, and I had the perfect idea in my head actually for a while, where couples face each other painting a picture, but you can't see what the other is painting, and you're literally supposed to describe your partner in color.
Oh,
How
wow.
do you feel
Well, we
about
have a
yourself?
caller,
How do you
Vaughn.
feel about your relationship?
Sorry, we have a caller,
Yes.
so we'll just hear from the caller quickly, and then we'll come right back to that, because that sounds very
Of course.
interesting. So you are live on Creative
All right.
Voices. Good morning.
Hello, good morning. Peace to you and everyone listening.
Good morning,
Very
morning.
interesting from the artists, and I'd like to hear what they're saying. I myself into the art. I
Okay.
would just hope that other persons will follow into your footsteps, because sometimes these things might take on a personal thing, but at the end of it, the broader picture is a national thing sometimes. I mean, you guys in the art, so you know what I'm talking about, especially when you have to check the famous persons in your various fields. You realize how it makes certain countries well known and popular. And I'm also hoping that persons in that inclination will take it on seriously and get involved, because all of us are getting older. And like I said, it could take on a national view sometimes. And if we have a shortfall, sometimes it could have an effect, because you guys are doing so much for our nation. It's unbelievable, and you may not even realize that, even some other persons. But these boys said that we had a stone builder so many years ago. He used to even help to restore the Brimstone Hill, but he passed on. But I'm not even sure if a lot of other persons was able to learn from him. So I'm just hoping that other persons who have this information will maybe even reach out to you guys to get some encouragement and to continue, because, like I said, a shortfall in that could create a problem for the nation in general. So that's my just contribution to you guys and to the nation, to encourage persons in this field to try to pick it up, and they might even come better than both of you, because I assure you, none of you want person to come as good as you, but better. I'm in the art of work, but a different art. I don't want anyone to come as good as me. I want them to come better than I am.
All right.
Especially when I'm teaching, and that means I would have done my work. So I just want to congratulate you on everything you would have achieved so far, and I wish you every success in your future endeavors to do even great things for you and your family. But I'm also asking for the nation of St. Denis. So God bless you. Keep the peace, and I wish you all the success, and God bless you going forward. Have a blessed day.
Have a blessed day. Thank you so much. That is wonderful, wonderful feedback. And, we didn't even speak, we started to speak to art and identity, and we haven't quite touched on national identity in that way as yet, but certainly in terms of legacy as well. Vaughn, you were just saying that you encourage anybody listening to pick up their pencil, and you're also sharing with us about an event that's upcoming as well, because that sometimes helps us as well to channel certain artistic energies, and also to feel what art can give us in terms of putting that pen, pencil, paint to canvas, to paper, with some guidance from people who know how to actually do the thing. So we are going to pause for a moment for a word from our sponsors, and we'll come back here a little bit more about that event and also about your exhibition at the Charlestown Gallery, Vaughn, so that people can know how long it's there for, when they can come and check it out. So we have Horsfords and we have Bougainvillea Books and Gifts sponsoring our second hour of this fantastic program. So remember, try Horsfords first. You can get everything from your pot and pan to your brand new vehicle from Horsfords. So Horsfords takes good care of us. And also at Bougainvillea Books and Gifts, we are creating community around everything creatively Caribbean. So stay tuned. We'll be back after the break.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
That was a nice call.
Welcome to Bougainvillea Books and Gifts, where every visit is a journey through time and imagination. Step into a world of literary wonders at our boutique bookstore, where every book tells a story and every corner holds a treasure waiting to be discovered. Immerse yourself in the enchanting aromas of our scented candles, perfect for creating a cozy atmosphere in any space. Explore our exquisite handcrafted jewelry. Whether you're searching for the perfect gift for that special someone or simply indulging in a little self-care, Bougainvillea Books and Gifts has something for everyone.
Come, build with us at Hostels Building and Neva Centers. We don't just sell materials, we help you build your dreams. Whether it's a new home, a renovation, or a DIY project, we're here to make it happen. That's why we say, build with us. From foundation to finish, come to our stores where we have the best in building materials, hardware, tools, paints, expert advice, and more. Whatever you need, you can count on us. So if you're ready to get started, build with us. With Hostels Building and Neva Centers, you're not just building a structure, you're building a future. Let us help you create something amazing. Dream with us, plan with us, grow with us, build with us. Come build with us at Hostels Building and Neva Centers today. Build with us at Hostels.
We are back with Creative Voices. You are tuned in to our fortnightly program where we explore all things creative in St. Kitts Nevis, the wider federation, the diaspora. We have on our program today Vaughn Anslin and Sabrina Warner, and we have had a very interesting discussion on the visual arts. So before we hop to break, Vaughn was sharing with us, we were talking actually about how art can be cathartic, can be very good at tapping into our emotions, can help us to process certain things and so on. And Vaughn, you were telling us about a lovely love event that is upcoming. So just going to hop back over to you to share with us a little bit more about that. And then also tell us about your exhibition, which Sabrina and I are going to come over to see before the month is out.
Yes. So this event is basically for couples. It's you're entitled to you're asked to describe your partner, not in words but in color. Imagine this: half of a heart. On the outside of the heart, describe your relationship. On the inside of the heart, describe your partner. Two canvases, and at the end, you join both of them together, and it will show the complete relationship. And then it will show how one person sees the other, both in the relationship as well as individual. I think that is a very interesting dynamic. I can't wait to see the result of it.
I agree.
When is it, Vaughn?
On the 22nd of this month.
And where will it be held?
Where is it? In St. Kitts.
Okay.
In St. Kitts.
All right.
I'll review it.
Okay, and I guess people can follow you on social media if they want to find out more about more details.
Yes,
Maybe I can inveigle my husband if he's here. Interesting.
I will definitely post it. Sure.
All right. We have tried artsy things before. I remember I have a good friend who's an excellent artist in Grenada, and she gave us some little clay figures for Christmas decorations once, and there was a little girl, two little boys, a big man and a big woman, and we were to paint them. Well, obviously it's our family because we have 3 children, a daughter, 2 sons, and so on. Well, I thought this was obvious, so I managed to get the family to sit down. The children were quite small, and I remember looking at I'm going to sell out my husband now because I remember looking across at his. I was thinking, that's how you paint yourself. And after we finished the entire exercise, he said, "Oh, this is supposed to be me." No, you didn't know. So it would be really interesting to see how the how this plays out.
Yeah.
Because it's not only, you have described very well, Vaughn, I think what your expectations are, but for coming to the palette, like people are coming to the canvas, people approach this so differently. And what I love about it is that when you take it home, people, if you display it somewhere, people don't necessarily need to know the story of it. So it can be a work of art that you and your significant other can know the story of, can know what it represents. And if you want to share, you can. If not, it could just be something that people look at. So that sounds great. So tell us a bit about your exhibition at the gallery, in the Charlestown Gallery.
Yes, I have an exhibition. It'll be running for the entire month of February. It's called Portraits of Life. And what it signifies is faces at different in different emotions, people in different poses, and just a reflection of how life is around us. And each one of them tells a story. Each one of them, they're different mediums. Some are charcoal on paper, pencil on paper, acrylic on canvas, acrylic on wood. So different things, and they're all different abstract, some realism, some contemporary. But yeah, it's about 22 pieces that are there.
Awesome. And I think that it's so wonderful that Nevis has a space like this.
Yeah.
So that work can be showcased. People can go to see it. People can go to buy it. Am I correct in saying that? If you wanted to purchase the artwork, you can do that. Yeah.
It's nice to see the pictures of it, this gallery full of people like that too.
Right. There was an opening event, correct?
It was, yes.
Yeah. So
And it was very well attended. Very well attended.
I can imagine. And on our last program, we also had a representative from the creative economy who was speaking about the Creative Arts Center that is hopefully going to be completed within the next couple of years. I'm not exactly sure what the timeline is. However, she was explaining that there will be space for this type of work as well. So for visual arts, assuming some type of gallery space. So that will be so important. And our caller spoke about the importance of art to national identity. So we spoke a bit about the murals. I asked you all about how coming from the Caribbean, being from St. Lucia, St. Kitts, and Jamaica, and Nevis, and all over the region, how that influences your identity as an artist. And Vaughn, you shared with us how that influences sometimes the expectations that people may have of you because of what they see in certain Caribbean territories where you have a lot of art that is done quickly, easily sold at an inexpensive rate. But in terms of the role of the artist in reflecting or creating national identity, what do you see as your role? So, for example, in memory of Bob Marley and his birthday today, he is quoted as saying that the only consciousness he has of himself is that he can be of a benefit to a people. So when you are creating your art as a Kittitian artist, as a Nevisian artist, do you think of your role in the preservation or creation of national identity?
I think.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I think my role is to honor the urges and honor the talent, and let that guide me, not necessarily towards an end goal, although I think that will come. But for now, my intention is to just honor my intuition, where it's leading me right now, what feels good, because I think that's also an example to anybody else, that there is value in honoring your intuition, putting more emphasis on following that guidance, because it is there for a reason. I honor that because I understand when I'm in the zone and painting that there is something else, something more powerful than me coming through me to that canvas. And it's important to create space for that. I believe that it's a powerful place to be. I believe it's a powerful example for me to follow and maybe for others to look at and follow. And I'm really looking forward to, I'm very glad that we're investing some money and some space into creative ventures. I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens with that center. And yeah, just that we're putting more emphasis on it and maybe encouraging people, creating a space for them to follow their own intuition and their own creativity and their own outlets.
Right. You know, the way that you've answered this question, it triggers a memory for me of that recent interview with Trevor Noah and the Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley, where she opens the interview speaking about Rihanna, the artist and musician, you know, globally well known, and how her work ethic, her tenacity, all of those things, she grounded within the Barbadian identity. So her ability to achieve all that she has achieved being largely influenced by where she came from. So not necessarily having a national identity as a prescriptive something that you're working towards or you're trying to include in your work, but being authentically you is part of what the nation has created. So if there's space for other people to be who they are authentically, then you have a natural sense of identity as a nation emerging from that in a very real and lived way. So Vaughn, I don't know if that is how it works for you as well, or if you see things a bit differently.
Well, my take on it is that before language, before writing, there was art. And how do I know this? Because art today survives on the walls of caves.
Egypt.
And yeah, in Egypt, exactly. And so with that in mind, I try to preserve that kind of sense. Like I will give you an example. We have a show in Nevis called the Mr. Cool Show. And I entered that show for the first time when it came out. I won that show. But on that show, I for my performing talent, which was unheard of and unseen at the time, I painted somebody on stage in 7 minutes.
Wow.
And it was a guy that, a young guy who used to play the fife. And that role is usually done by older guys, but there was this one young guy who chose to do it and keep that cultural art form alive. And I chose him as my subject matter to paint. Tragically enough, as fate will have it, he died a year later.
Oh my God.
But had I not done that painting, no one would have known who he was. And everybody now said, who's that guy? Oh, that's the guy that Vaughn painted on stage. And that made me realize that the importance of art in the preservation of culture and of people. And so then therefore, if you go to the Nevis Bakery, there's portraits of mine that I did, and they're all of those people who we considered vagrants, who we considered troublemakers, you know, the people, everyday people that you grew up with that used to yell at you or swear at you or curse at you, but we all know who they are.
Yeah, by name.
And I went around and did portraits of all of these individuals, and I put them in the Nevis Bakery, and everybody knows who they are. On a wall in Nevis, I have a wall, and it's memorialized with all the Nevisians who became members of the West Indies cricket team. And their faces are larger than life on a wall close to the park. So these things, I think, as an artist, that's the role I play in the preservation of culture and the preservation of people in general, because, you know, it's such a powerful medium. And long after I'm gone, those images will still be there. And they'll be hanging in somebody's house or somewhere on a wall, preserving that moment in time and that person in time.
Yeah, you know, as you say that, it makes me think of, like, you know, famous artists like Salvador Dali. I don't know if he was like painting for a national identity or he was doing exactly what you all have described, and then he becomes iconic for the art of the nation. Similarly to, you know, music, and you know, I attended virtually a conference that was hosted out of Austria, and in between the breaks they had all these famous Austrian classical composers' music being played and performed, and that becomes iconic for that country because not necessarily because the art, you know, there's this symbiotic relationship then where one is influencing and mirroring the other. And I wondered then, in what way
Exactly.
And Vaughn, you may have more experience with this because a lot of your art is you paint in public spaces. The examples you gave us just now with the portraits in the bakery and the cricketers and so on. Of course, you are, well known in St. Kitts for some viral moments of mural design as well. But
Right.
so in what way do you see your art contributing to conversations about identity, resilience?
The curator for the hospital asked me to paint something in the arrival of the emergency ward, where this vibrant, beautiful sun. Yeah, but that a story. I was asked to come to Anguilla by a friend of mine to do. Basically, after the hurricane, it was things where people are depressed, as he said, and he just wanted to brighten up the area, so to speak. I said, okay, no problem. So I'll come down. I came down with my paints. So there was this, back in the day where we have the dams, where we had this little dam pipe and people will drink from it. But it has 4 sides. So I figured, well, that's the perfect place to paint something. It was on the side of the road, close to this roundabout. I'm from Nevis. I'm a painter. He said, well, why are you doing this? Who hired you? I said, no one really hired me. I just came to do it because a friend of mine asked me to do it. He said, you're doing this and no one is paying you? I said, no, not really, no. He said, I got home, it was like 300 and something EC and about 500 and something US dollars.
Wow.
I couldn't believe it. And that is the most humbling thing that I've ever experienced in my life. It's like, wow.
And
Without
look at how
even
you
a
touched
question.
him. You motivated him just
Exactly.
by, and it wasn't intentional.
And then it wasn't, no, not at all. And then the TV station came down and interviewed me. And, they were all blown away by the fact that I'm here doing all this work for nothing.
Wow.
Well, they see it as nothing, but to me, I'm putting my name on a wall in Anguilla. And so many people have approached me and told me since then, Vaughn, I've seen your work in Anguilla. I've taken a picture next to your mural in Anguilla. And that's what it's all about. It's not about the money value per se, but the value to life itself that art brings to people. I think that's the most important part of it all.
That's amazing.
That's such an incredible story about also getting back what you give. There wasn't the intention of getting paid
exactly.
for it.
Yeah, so like what
I
you put
love
out
that.
into the universe, the universe returned to you
Yes.
tenfold because you got the emotional feeling of receiving and just this kindness of this gentleman doing this act because he was so compelled by your own kindness, and then it also had a monetary result as well. But it reminds me of if you're driving down Wellington Road, the lampposts on Wellington Road, they're painted in the national colors. So I never knew, they look nice. I always figured it's some maybe government initiative. And one day I was walking down the street and there was a gentleman and he had some paint and he was touching it up, so it had faded and he was brightening it up. And he said to me, if I remember correctly, he said to me something along the lines of, he lives overseas, he's Kittitian, but when he comes home, he likes to do this to make the place look nice. So he buys the paint, or somebody will give him the paint, and then he'll go and he'll paint he painted all the green, and then he painted all the red, and that was just selfless love of country.
I met him.
You met him?
He does it on his own.
That's what I realized in speaking with him.
No one asked him, no one told him. And I said, that is exactly the same thing I do. Just put your art out there.
Yeah. And when it fades, he comes and touches it up, Yeah. Yeah, that is that, and then
Perfect.
It makes it more beautiful for all of us, and
exactly.
Yeah, Sabrina, I don't know if you had any stories where your art has touched people or sparked conversation that you hadn't expected, perhaps, or anything stands out.
Well, I expect the latest piece to spark some conversation, but it's not quite finished yet.
Okay. All right, so that's a work in progress. But I also know we spoke about murals a bit, and we're going to cut to break to hear from our sponsors so that we can make sure that we show gratitude to our sponsors for making this show possible. In our second hour, we have Horsfords, so try Horsfords first, and we have Bougainvillea Books and Gifts. We want to give a special shout out also to one of our previous guests, and you can also, it's connected to your art, Vaughn, because young Corinne Anaya Clark, who is a young author. She is the reigning junior Calypso monarch for St. Kitts and Nevis, has entered the fray with Machel Montano in rendering a video clip of her performance of one of his songs for the 2026 Trinidad Carnival. And she performed it right in front of your sign, Vaughn, at Port Zante. So you can see the beautiful St. Kitts sign behind there. And she has done very well. The top three are now, there's now voting that is open for the top one of the three to be selected to perform with Machel on Machel Monday in Trinidad. And I joked with her mother yesterday that I hope Machel knows what he's in for, because I feel she's going to win and she's quite a performer. So she may take the stage from him. So for those who are listening, you can see Vaughn's art if you look for Corinne's posts, but also vote for her. And let's let our little trinket, our Trinidadian Kittishan, make it on that stage where it will blow us all away. I'm sure of it. So we'll hear from our sponsors and we'll be right back after the break. Don't go too far.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Welcome to Bougainvillea Books and Gifts, where every visit is a journey through time and imagination. Step into a world of literary wonders at our boutique bookstore, where every book tells a story and every corner holds a treasure waiting to be discovered. Immerse yourself in the enchanting aromas of our scented candles, perfect for creating a cozy atmosphere in any space. Explore our exquisite handcrafted jewelry, whether you're searching for the perfect gift for that special someone or simply indulging in a little self-care. Bougainvillea Books and Gifts has something for everyone.
Come, build with us at Hostels Building and Neva Centers. We don't just sell materials, we help you build your dreams. Whether it's a new home, a renovation, or a DIY project, we're here to make it happen. That's why we say, build with us. From foundation to finish, come to our stores where we have the best in building materials, hardware, tools, paints, expert advice, and more. Whatever you need, you can count on us. So if you're ready to get started, build with us. With Hostels Building and Neva Centers, you're not just building a structure, you're building a future. Let us help you create something amazing. Dream with us, plan with us, grow with us, build with us. Come build with us at Hostels Building and Neva Centers today. Build with us at Hostels.
Shopping with TDC just got much easier. Here's how. Log on to shoptdcgroup.com. Shop at your convenience at any time, from anywhere with your smartphone, tablet, or computer. With our safe and secure payment checkout, you choose the option to pick up in-store or have your goods delivered right to your door. It's that easy. Shop tdcgroup.com, your one-stop online store.
Shop anywhere, shop anytime, same quality you love. Now online. Shop www.shoptdcgroup.com.
Good morning and welcome back to Creative Voices. We have been having so much fun in the studio today with Vaughn Anslin and Sabrina Warner. I am your host, Sarah Owen, and we haven't just been speaking about visual arts. We have been speaking about nation building. We have been speaking about healing oneself. We have been speaking about magical moments of escape and all things in between. So it's really been a very interesting dialogue so far. And Vaughn and Sabrina, both of you have, along this conversation, we've been dealing with, the process that you undertake to create these spectacular works, the practice that goes into honing your skills, honing your craft, the time it takes to create a masterpiece. What can you share with people, everyday people who may be listening, and they would love to be able to perhaps engage with your art, purchase art, but it's out of reach for them. They may not be art collectors, but how can people still support artists locally if, for example, purchasing an original piece might be a little out of reach for them? Perhaps, Vaughn, you shared about your exhibitions. There may be other means by which people can become engaged. So you can be a collector, you can purchase pieces, but there may be other things that people can do. Is there anything that comes to mind that you'd like to share with our listeners who want to support local artists, want to be engaged in the art community? Any advice or tips you may have for them?
I actually think we are blessed nowadays to have social media as an outlet, a platform where you can engage. I engage a lot with artists on their social media platforms. You'd be surprised the kinds of things that come up there. And then, of course, there are always, usually artists will have some way where you can buy prints if originals are out of reach in terms of the price. But yeah, social media is certainly a way for now. And once we have our center up and running, that will be another great way where people can engage with artists and maybe get involved even in art.
Yeah, so a way in which you can follow the journey, and if you like the artwork, for example, you can share, you can promote, you can help to sensitize your friend group, your community to what's happening locally. Here are some artists, this is what they've shared, this is what they have, this is their perspective, this is the lens through which they paint, that type of thing. Vaughn, any tips or advice for people who may not be art collectors per se, may not have the wherewithal to purchase an original piece, but want to support and share and encourage artists in the Federation? Any tips or advice for those listeners? We're not hearing you.
Art is an investment.
Oh, we're hearing you now.
It's something that it's like, it's almost like buying gold or jewelry. It's an investment that you make for later on down the line. Some people buy it just simply because it's a piece that they connect with. Others buy it because of the resale value. Whatever it is, it's something that you must have an appreciation for, and not everybody does. You might ask me to draw a portrait of your relative or your family member, and that's fine. That's one way of doing it. But I'm not going to duplicate my work because it's for you. You own that piece. You have the right to own that piece, and no one has the right to own a copy of it cheaper than what you paid for it. That's how I feel.
Okay,
that's what I feel about it.
That's a very interesting perspective.
Yeah, I do not wish to put at anybody, and then for someone to question, is that an original? No, if I have my name on it, it's an original. It's Vaughn Hansen created that for me. I bought it. It's mine.
Right. And
if you want a print of it, you have to take a picture.
Organize that yourself. But they have that. But I like the way that you framed it, because that is a very good way in which people can be engaged as well, in terms of framing the purchase of art as investment, because that's how I see it as well. Because art is, I really value what the artist can create and has created. And if there's something that I like that's a little outside of my reach, but I really want it, then I would save towards it in the way that you'd save towards a goal, some other investment goal. And I also see them as things that once, barring any natural disaster or anything like that, I can hand it to my children. So sometimes when I'm purchasing a piece, even a small piece, I'll think, one of them may like this, later on in life. Hopefully.
Right.
And I imagine sometimes also, I have a friend, because where I went to school in England, there were a lot of exceptional artists, and one of my friends went to art school after our A-levels, and she sent me her first piece. It's a lily that she did in art school, and she sent it via mail from England, and my mom framed it, and I have it there, and I imagine passing that down because it was in my daughter's room, and so it's like part of our story. It's been there her whole life. So then the art becomes part of our legacy
Definitely.
and something that
Right.
we pass down as well. And as a lover of literature, you hear that in a lot of stories sometimes where there'll be reference to a painting that grandma had. I've heard Maya Angelou speak to paintings in her mother's house, that certain life
Right.
moments, she remembers that painting when she's going through a particular thing that she needs to navigate or to solve. So I really like, Vaughn, how you framed that also in terms of investment. So if there's somebody who wants to save towards investing in a piece of art, you can do that. If you have the wherewithal to just purchase it, you can do that. And then to Sabrina's point, if you are, if you're just not in that space where you can do either of those things because whatever you're saving has to go towards utilities and that type of thing, you can share the stories of the artist. You can promote the work of the artist by sharing what they may be doing on social media. So we are getting close, if you can imagine, to that end time. And you know that I sent you all about a zillion questions that I might ask, and I've asked only a handful of those because we never get through all of those on a show. But it is this, I say that just to say that there's so much conversation that we can still have. And so we spoke just now about advice and tips for those who are interested in supporting the arts. But what would you share? We always ask our guests, for those who are listening, who are interested in your field, who are interested in becoming artists, who are maybe in the early stage of that journey that you both shared, what words of advice, I'll start with you, Sabrina, what words of advice might you have for our listeners as it relates to their own creative endeavors?
It's different from when I started, for sure. I think now we have many more avenues and many more ways that we can reach out for assistance and even guidance and tutorials and stuff. YouTube is one such resource where there's just, you can go on YouTube and look for a video on how to based on any skill level.
Right.
Just a place to start. And I think it's just important to encourage people just to start, not worry about what it looks like. You can start with mandalas. Those are a great way to start, just playing around with color and painting and the feeling behind it and stuff, and then you just develop from there. There are so many people now, even artists, who are doing tutorial videos that you can buy memberships and you can join their memberships and you can get various tasks to do that are at various skill levels. There's so many resources that you can use without having to pay. And then of course if you're more invested, then there are certainly courses that you can take, paid courses, and then you can go off to study if you would like to. It's just about expressing and there's so much magic that happens in the expressing. Sometimes you don't even realize the things that you're able to process. You're not conscious of processing them. You just realize that afterwards, hey, I now feel differently.
Right.
I don't have such a strong reaction anymore to certain things.
You've released it through the art.
Yeah.
Awesome. And Vaughn, what words of advice do you have for our listeners who are on their own creative path?
Well, the thing is, for anyone on their own creative path, you must ask yourself one question: if you want to do it commercially or privately. Because privately, the rewards are great. You get to put something in your house and it's there for you forever to see. However, commercially, you have a lot to contend with because nowadays you can just ask AI and print it. And then you can print it to whatever, on charcoal, on pencil, and look like a Van Gogh, look like a painting. It doesn't matter. And a lot of people, the world's attention span has become so small that people don't have the time to sit down and paint something for several hours anymore. They want to create it instantly. If they can't do it, they get frustrated and move on to the next one. It's a dying art being art the way it is. But I still think it holds a very special place, both in our history and in our everyday culture. And I think for anyone with any level of any artistic ability should fight to keep it alive, because the things that we're faced with and contend with, at the end of the day, our own personal feelings is what really matters, not what a computer can give you, not in 15 seconds. So anyone who has any kind of artistic ability or have an interest in art, pursue it and keep trying.
Awesome advice.
Yeah, I think the people who are going to print an AI generated piece of art are not the same people who are going to buy art. People who are
No,
art
they're not.
yeah. People who are art aficionados, they're going to buy that art. They're going to seek it out. They're going to buy it. They will not appreciate, certainly, with the same level of appreciation, a piece that you can generate in a minute with AI software.
Yeah, and they're two completely different things. But I do see I do see more artists using a sort of blend of digital tools and what would be the other non-digital tools, manual tools, analog tools, whatever is the right way to say that. But I was looking at some pieces by a local artist recently, and they were beautiful, but he does all of his painting using software. So he's painting it, but he's using digital brushes and that type of thing. And we have
seen that.
Yes, you've seen. Yeah. So it took me a little while, to be honest, to kind of grasp what it is. I said, I don't understand what is, so he is creating the art.
But he's not using a physical paint brush and paint.
It's all digital.
It's all digital.
Yeah. And the benefit of that is that he can sell it as an NFT. People can
and you know what threw me off is because it said watercolor. So in my mind, watercolor is a physical thing, but it's a digital watercolor. And then we have some other artists that take their paintings, their physical paintings, create digital versions of those paintings and manipulate them a little bit so that the digital version is slightly different from to your point, Vaughn, earlier, that you wouldn't have two of the same thing. So it's not a straight print. It's a different work of art. And I know I did say that we were going to speak about intellectual property, and we've run out of time, so we didn't even get there. But that's something else that I imagine is something that both of you have to contend with as well, in terms of people reproducing or utilizing your images. And I've had to work through some of these things at the store as well, in terms of artisans maybe using images that are found online to create other work, but explaining that you can't do that without buying the license, getting the permission, that kind of thing.
But just quickly, I saw a painting of mine, a photo of a painting of mine hanging in a business place in St. Kitts that I never gave him any rights to, and it's completely signed.
Oh!
So they digitally put my picture on, my signature on it.
No way.
And it's hanging in a building, yes.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, how did that get there? But I know the original is in Mr. Samal Daggin's office.
But to put the signature on it, that's another level of that I hadn't even thought of in terms of property IP infringement, So I think we'll have to have another show with Gian to walk us through all of that. Yeah.
Right.
But I know it is news time, so Flames is going to kick us out of here soon if I don't get off the air. But it has been a wonderful, wonderful experience having you both on. Thank you for your patience as well. I know we spoke about having this program several months ago, and you all have been very patient with me, and I appreciate you both coming on, sharing space, sharing story, sharing parts of your lives with us. It's been wonderful. So to our listeners, we'll be back again in 2 weeks. Laurie will be hosting the next episode, so tune in, and we look forward to welcoming you then. Bye, everyone.
Thank you very much.